going on, guys, to another episode of the Double V Sports Talk right here on twitch.com/BuckHeels, twitch.com/Volzie. Again, on Double V Sports Talk, Facebook, Double V Sports Talk Live on YouTube. So
Nice.
we finally have our Super Bowl matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We got the Chiefs and the Bucks. Tom Brady back in for his 10th Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes going for back-to-back, trying to get that Andy Reid his second win. You know, Andy Reid's probably been in the Super Bowl the second most amount of times for a head coach in the last 20 years, even though he's only won one.
How many has it? It's this week's third, right? I believe.
So his third or fourth. He took the Eagles there, what, twice?
I thought once. It was the one where 04, the one that played in Jacksonville with T.O. and Dominic Knapp. So I think three.
That's right, because they could never win the NFC East. Or the NFC or Conference Championship. But anyway, that's going on next week. Today is a very special episode because today is about the NFL Pro Bowl. And what's going on with the NFL Pro Bowl is it is individual recognition for things that the individual players do during the season. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on individual recognition for the NFL players and what they did this year and what they deserve looking forward. Now we have the NFL awards coming up on February 6th. All right, so the day before the Super Bowl, where they're going to be handing out all these awards. But because we're not going to be on until after that happens, we wanted to go ahead and go through our list of who we think, first off, should win the awards, more so than who we think will win the awards. Because, I mean, everybody knows this can be a popularity contest based off of the votes. But we're going to go with who we think should win the awards. So, Matt, you want to start from bottom to top, or you want to go from top to bottom?
Let's go bottom to top, since
all right,
we'll leave the big award last.
First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the defensive back of the year in the NFC. Matt, what are your thoughts there?
I put Harris Smith, the safety for the Minnesota Vikings. But how I look at defensive backs, I look at tackles, but I look at interceptions. And I know he had 5 interceptions. And I know Minnesota didn't do well, but it didn't keep him from having a stellar year.
You know, I can understand that. And, you know, I like interceptions, don't get me wrong, I do. But a lot of times I think there's a lot more than just that, right? And here's why. Because the best DBs in the league don't get the ball thrown to them nearly as much. The best DBs in the league usually have a very good defensive line in front of them because it causes quick balls out and poor decision making. And, you know, statistically, he may not have had the best year, but just watching what he did for this defense, and it's a defense that we talked about all year long as being one of the best in the league, and I think a lot of it had to do with this guy is Jalen Ramsey.
That was my number 2.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey had 44 tackles. Now, he only had 1 pick, but here's why he only had 1 pick. They didn't throw the ball his way.
Mm-hmm.
But because he did such a great job of locking up number 1 receivers and taking away options for quarterbacks, he allowed that defensive line for the Rams to be so impactful and to cause such destruction up front. And that doesn't happen without a lockdown guy out there. When you got a lockdown corner, especially a corner, it makes things so much easier on the D line. I think he's a vital reason to why Aaron Donald and that defensive line had the year they did.
Yeah, I mean, just look what he did to. I would agree. Just look what he did to DK Metcalf. The three times they played them. Well, and he just took and DK Metcalf. People was questioning. People was like, he's gonna be next Calvin Johnson. He's unstoppable. And then Ramsey just comes in there and just shuts him down every time he played him.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Matt, let's flip it over. What about the AFC? Who is your defensive back of the AFC?
To me, I think it's no. I know Marcus Peters gets thrown up in there, but for me, I think this player had the biggest impact. I think he had a better year than James Ramsey. Is Xavier Howard? I mean, he had 10 interceptions. He was the focal of that defense, and that Dolphins defense was people would say one of the top defense in the AFC this year, and he was the reason why, because they turned the ball, they turned you over. So
No, absolutely. Hang on one second. But anyway, Xavier Howard's probably my choice there too. But because you went ahead and said with him, and a lot of that had to do with his ability to play the ball. Now, unlike Jalen Ramsey, they tested him, right? They tested this Dolphins defense, and time again, the Dolphins defense stepped up and did what they had to do. Now, can't forget about the D-line that they had there for the Dolphins. That did a tremendous job of causing quick balls, bad decisions, fluttered balls, things like that Xavier and Howard took advantage of. But I think if we're talking about individual stats, right, and what you did as an individual in the AFC, I think Xavier Howard is the number one go-to guy. But let me say this. If we're looking at the best defensive back in terms of what they did for their team, I've got to go with Tyrann Mathieu. What he did for this Chiefs defense is absolutely unbelievable in the sense of the way they utilized him for everything. They used him in man coverage. They used him middle of the field coverage. They used him in drop down zone. They used him. They even did some rolling him to halves and things like that. But his ability to come up in the box, make plays, not expose the defense, very few times was he a reason they gave up a big play, which is what you need as a safety. But just the energy and everything that he brought to that defense was absolutely unbelievable and impressive to watch. So if I'm going to go with the defensive back that was the biggest impact for their team, I'm going with Tyrann Mathieu.
Mm-hmm. I can't argue that. I mean, I feel like that's a fair pick too.
Let's look at the next thing on our list. Let's go to linebacker of the year. And this time, Matt, let's start with the AFC.
All right. For me, how I judge linebackers, because I know people are going to look at this different because this is our picks. I look at linebackers that you kind of like the impact players, kind of like you always seen Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, those type of players that you have to put a focus. So for the AFC, I'm going with the Colts linebacker, Darius Lifford. This guy was, if this team, I know they had a stat front four with Buckner in front of him, but this is a guy that was, when he was off, this defense got torched. When he was on, this defense looked like the top 5 defense of the NFL. So he was the big reason for it. So I have to go with Darius Lifford.
And I'm actually going to agree with you here. I don't think there was another linebacker in the AFC that did what he did and had the impact that he had. He held that defense together when they didn't have a whole lot of help offensively. They needed him to really step up, and he did time and time again. Not to mention, always rooting for those Carolina boys. Being from Florence, South Carolina, there. But he was a big reason for why the Colts had the success they did this year. Without him, they don't make it to the playoffs. They don't win as many games as they did. And Philip Rivers doesn't get to walk away from this game knowing that he at least had a legitimate shot at trying to make a run at a Super Bowl. And a lot of that comes down to Darius Leonard, what he did for this defense.
Definitely.
So what are your thoughts on the AFC?
NFC.
NFC.
There was a couple. There was, I think, more NFL or NFC linebackers that had.
I would 100% agree.
Linebackers that had great year too, but the one person that, like I told you, that stuck out to me, he was their best pass rusher too. I have to go with Devin White for the linebacker for Tampa Bay. I mean, this guy, all on the field, he was their best pass rusher. He was just the focus, and man, it's only his second year, and I know we're not counting the playoffs, but have you seen him? What he's been doing in the playoffs?
Absolutely.
So I mean, I gotta go with Devin White. So
and to tell you how stacked this defense is, to me, it came down to two guys. It came down to Devin White and Lamonte David.
mm-hmm.
Both in the same linebacker core.
And don't forget Shaq Barrett. He's considered a linebacker, although he'll be on the end.
Exactly. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. And I may be a little biased because of what he's done in the playoffs as well, but you're talking about at 22 years old, this guy comes in, he gets 140 tackles, 9 sacks. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I'm with you there. Devin White is my NFC linebacker of the year by far. What an impressive year he had, and he's going to be a scary defender to have to deal with in the NFC South for a long time to come. Now let's go defensive line of the year. Defensive line of the year. Let's start off with the NFC. What are your thoughts here, Matt?
Well, I like to break down because I break down linebacker defense backs. I feel like people look at defense a little different. For me, I look at sacks and pressures. For me, I feel like pressure. A lot of people don't look at pressures; they just look at sacks. So I go with mine. I go Aaron Donald. This guy was double teamed, triple teamed more than anyone in this league, and he still finished with 13 and a half sacks, being second. I mean, this guy, he tore up the league. I mean, he can ask Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson, I think he sacked him the most, going against him twice, and it's hard to bring down Russell Wilson for how fast he is. So
I'm a huge Aaron Donald fan, and when I was looking at it, it came down between him and Trey Hendricks, and I do think Trey Hendricks had a really good year. I was impressed to see with what he was able to do. Really this was his breakout year. I really think that he's going to do a lot of special things in the league moving forward. I mean, he goes from having 6.5 sacks in 3 years to having 13.5 sacks in this year. But he's not the presence that Aaron Donald is. He got 13.5 sacks. Juggernaut, man, I appreciate the follow. But at the end of the day, it's Aaron Donald that you have to run the ball away from. It's Aaron Donald you have to set your pass protection to. It's Aaron Donald you have to keep your eye on at all times before he just plows through every single tackle, guard, and center you have on your roster, because he lines up everywhere and have to put all your focus on there. I'm with you there. Aaron Donald's my NFC defensive lineman of the year. Now, let's flip it over to the AFC. Before you even say anything, is there even a debate?
I don't think so.
There,
if you're going with I'm going.
I couldn't even think of a second one.
I can think of two.
I couldn't think of two. I thought of one, and that was pretty much it. If anybody else came close, then
I think it's two. But I think if we're thinking of it, I think he is no debate. But there is a second, but it's not closer. I don't think.
Okay, let's hear it.
T.J. Watt.
100%. Who I want to know who you thought was close.
Miles, like I said, he wasn't close. Myles Garrett. If there was a second, he would be second. And then
Miles Garrett had a
DeForest
really,
Butler, I thought would be third. If I had
here's the thing, right? Miles Garrett had 12 sacks in 14 games. If he had two more games, then he's going to be up there in the same number. And I can see what you're saying there. Miles Garrett was an extremely impactful when it came to what he did for that Browns defense, and that Browns defense looked a lot different with him not being on the field during those COVID weeks. I can agree with you there. But at the end of the day, you cannot take away what TJ Watt did for that Steelers defense, especially the ability to make as many plays as he did with as many playmakers as they had on the field.
even with, I think a lot of people was not looking at T.J. Watt as being the best defensive player, but when Bud Dupree got injured, people started shifting more to him, and his stats definitely against double teams actually went up. So he didn't his sack percentage went down, but that's figured when you start getting double team. But he still was that X factor without his Robin, or what you want to say, call him.
No, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. Just what an unbelievable year he had. It was impressive. It was impressive.
I mean, a poor
Um,
playoff performance though. So great year that ended up in a Browns upset.
yeah, no, absolutely. No, Matt, I'm a little disappointed here. You left off one of the most impactful positions on the field. When are we going to talk about the best offensive lineman?
I know. I didn't know if you want. I mean, we'll do it right now. I have mine.
Well, go ahead.
So I'll do AFC. I think Wyatt Teller, the offensive line for the Browns, when this guy was in the when he was hurt and out of the lineup, there was a difference. They couldn't run the ball. Oh, and they're like, I think there was a statistic when he was out, they lost. I think they were like 1-2, and they had the worst rushing attempts. But when he was in the lineup, he was a difference maker. This guy, the guard, he was a big force for this offense. I know they had their own stud running backs, but this guy was the reason why, because he dominated the trenches.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's a big reason as why they were so effective when it came to, first and foremost, running the ball, and then secondly, protecting Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't protect your quarterback, it's a long day. And so I agree with you there. I'm 100% with you. I think Wyatt Taylor is the AFC Offensive Lineman of the Year. Now flip it over to now I will say this, that I did think, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head because I don't have it written down, the guard for the Chiefs is number 2. I'd have to go look him up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Now let's flip it over to the NFC. Who do you have there?
I might butcher his name. The Packers did miss him in this playoff, especially against those Bucks, but it's the left tackle David Bakiachi, whatever.
Yes.
I knew I was gonna butcher his name, but he was I think people listed him the best tackle in the NFL. I mean, what he did for that backside of Aaron Rodgers, and you could definitely tell they really needed him in Tampa. But they had him for the whole season. He was just the X factor, was the reason why Aaron Rodgers only got sacked 22 times this season. So,
I can agree with you there, and not mad at it. I definitely see where you're coming from, but I want to take a second and say, what about Ali Marpet, the left guard for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and what he did this year in allowing to, first and foremost, keep Tom Brady upright, and then secondly, the cornerstone for one of the best offensive lines we saw this season, just consistently all the way through. Really think what he did was impressive to watch, impressive to see, and it'd be interesting to see how he does here in the Super Bowl. If it's anything like he has been, then he'll be just fine. That's for sure. But he's still relatively young too.
yeah. And I would have went with him. There was a couple Tampa linemen that I would have considered would be my number two. So I can't disagree with that. So I think that's a good choice too.
Now, what about your tight end of the AFC? Who do you got?
Well, I think this one is like we talked about. This there's only one person. Um, so I'll give a shout out to Devin Waller. I know you had a great year, but you didn't have the year of Travis Kelsey. So I think it's unanimous. To my opinion, Travis Kelsey, to me, the best tight end in the league.
100%.
And what he's doing statistically as a tight end, I think he was the first tight end to have, is it 4 or 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons? I can't remember. Is it 4 or 5? Do you know? But
Yeah, it is. It's been 5.
5. So what he's done, I mean, the first tight end, he's putting up first, and I don't know if you guys should go see it. Shannon Sharp does a podcast, and he had Travis Kelsey. And to hear his story, I didn't know he was a quarterback in high school, and he got turned to a tight end after his freshman year in college. And I also didn't know he got kicked out of college, and so his brother convinced coach to bring him back. So, just a side story.
Yeah, no, I think the year he had, I mean, 105 catches for over 1,400 yards and then 11 touchdowns. I mean, wide receivers can't put up those kind of numbers. And to do it from the tight end level, to do it when, I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Granted, they also had 2 really good receivers on either side of them to help alleviate some pressure, and he was that kind of the middle of the field threat. But, when you go back and you look and it's 3rd down, they need a first down to keep moving, or it's 4th down, they need a first down to keep moving, who gets the ball?
Mm-hmm.
And that tells me the value that you are to this team. And think about this, Matt. He had 105 catches for 1,400 yards, and he only played 15 games.
Yeah. And he's that type of guy. You talked about the weapons. He would be putting these numbers up whatever team you throw him on, if they just have a decent quarterback. Because we saw Alex Smith. That was his favorite target when he had Alex Smith as his quarterback. So,
absolutely. But what an impressive year by him. Congratulations there to another year in the Super Bowl. Now, let's go flip it over and let's talk about the NFC.
So I changed mine. What I've told you. Mine was Robert Tunning, and I ended up changing it because I feel like for me, who had there was no really tight ends that stood out in the NFC, but I would have to go to one that made the impact and was one of the reasons why they got to the playoffs. It was the Redskins tight end Logan Thomas. Shout out former quarterback for Virginia Tech, turned to tight end, another quarterback tight end. Got to see it. But I think he impressed me the most and had the bigger year, I thought. So I would go Logan Thomas because if he didn't have the year he had, I don't think Washington got in playoffs because I can't think of their star receiver. He missed a couple games, and those games that he was out, Logan had some big games.
I agree with you. And let me just flip over to the AFC real quick. I think it would be completely disrespectful if we didn't at least mention Darren Waller and the year that he had with the Raiders. He's not Travis Kelsey, not yet, but he's still young. But Darren Waller with 107 catches and 1,200 yards with 9 touchdowns, and what he did for that team is extremely impressive. But I'm still sticking with Travis Kelsey. Just feel like we need to give him a shout out. And I can agree with Logan Thomas. I do think that his impact was absolutely crucial. I would have liked to say maybe TJ Yoxon, but at the same time, what Logan Thomas did for the Redskins when they literally had no weapons, he's a big reason why they were able to make it to the playoffs. Without him, they don't make it. Without him, that offense is even worse than it was.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I agree with you. Now let's flip it over. What about receiver of the year? Let's go ahead and start off in the NFC. And I think if you're asking me, it's coming down to 2 guys, right?
I think it's one for both sides, but I can see.
So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. I'm gonna tell you who my top 2 are. Then I'm gonna let you pick right here. I think in the NFC, it's got to come down to D Hop and Devontae Adams.
Yep.
It's got to like those are the two that this award at least has to come down to. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, one put a lot more points up on the board, and that's what this league's all about. And that's why I think we're both going to be on the same page with who we pick here. You gonna tell me?
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell me yours. If it is Devontae Adams,
100%,
I mean,
without doubt. 18 touchdowns. You give me out of here.
just
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I think what DeAndre Hopkins did for the Cardinals offense is extremely impactful and plays a big role into the success that they had. And without him, you know, they're not nearly going to be who they were. But at the same time, they needed a lot more. And at the end of the day, they needed him to score more.
yeah.
Quite frankly, they needed him to put more points on the board, and he didn't. But Devontae Adams found ways to get into the end zone. 18 touchdowns. Are you freaking kidding me? 18 touchdowns. What a year by him.
If Hopkins could have got double digits, his only six touchdowns really lacked. Like if he could have gotten more, I think it would have been a bigger difference, or a little closer. Now
let's flip it over to the AFC. Now, once again, I think this comes down to two. And tell me if you have a third one in here. But in my mind, the two this comes down to are Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually struggled with this one a little bit. But, you know, I have a feeling we'll probably be on the same page. So who do you have here?
I got Stephon Diggs. I mean, he led the league in yards. And for me, everyone talked about. I look at this. I was like,
the league in boy had 127 catches.
Yeah, and led the league in catches. I look at it more like this too. I thought he had a bigger year, and when I'm looking receiver, I was like, too. If you take Tyreek off the team, I think the Chiefs still are going to be as dominant. If you take Stephon Diggs away from Buffalo, even though Josh Allen had a great year, I don't think the Bills would have done what they did without Stephon Diggs. I mean, this guy was a stud, and he showed it.
Oh, thank you for subscribing. Who's your daddy? I appreciate it. Don't forget exclamation point ticket for your chance to win. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Right, I'm going to have the same talk that we had about the AFC defensive back of the year. Okay, so here's the deal. If we're talking about individual awards and what you did as an individual in this league,
mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill is my AFC wide receiver of the year. Okay, just what he was able to do in 15 games with over 1,200 yards. I mean, he averaged 14.7 yards a catch. I mean, he's averaging almost 15 yards a catch, and he put up 15 touchdowns. Absolutely unbelievable. But if we're talking about the impact that he had on a team, then yes, I'm with you 100%. Stephon Diggs, the impact that he had for the Bills and what he did for them and the reliability that he had given Josh Allen really set up Josh Allen for the next couple of years. This was a great trade for the Bills. Definitely think that this is going to be a tandem to have to match with years to come.
And I'll say this, that trade, I got two things. That trade, I think, was good for both sides because shout out Jefferson, the rookie they got from that trade. I mean, you could throw, I'll probably, hint, might be mention him later. But to me, I mean, this guy, he was a stud too. But I also want to make a shout out to another impact player. I wasn't going to consider him, but dang, man. I don't know if you heard the story. Cole Beasley for the Buffalo Bills had a great year in his impact. But I didn't know if you knew this, Brian. These 3 playoff games they were playing, Buffalo. I didn't know until earlier this week. Cole Beasley was playing that game with a broken leg.
Yeah, I did see that.
So
crazy. Shows how tough and what a competitor he is. That is for sure. So let's flip it over to running back of the year. Let's go ahead and take care of the easy one. Let's start off with the running back of the AFC.
Yep.
All right.
I think it is easily to say when someone breaks 2,000 yards, it's kind of a no-brainer. He's a stud, and he was Derrick Henry. He also was the focus of that team. The only reason that offense was legit is because Derrick Henry was able to just pound the rock and get that play action open with Tannehill. People were saying Tannehill's a stud. Well, the only reason Tannehill's a stud is because you got a running back that's easily able to take carries. I mean, 378 carries. Woo!
Absolutely.
I was like, I don't know how sore he'll be this offseason, but he was the only
He's gonna be
reason
short
Tennessee
enough where
was in the playoffs.
he's gonna be sore enough where his career may be cut short over the time because this dude's taking more of a beating and taking that ball more than anybody else.
Let me say
Once
this:
again,
if Derrick Henry got hurt this year, past year, Tennessee
Titans,
they wouldn't
they
get
win
into the
6
playoffs.
games. They win six
This
games.
defense doesn't win them that game. If their defense was last year, you would say they could still get in, but because of this year, they wouldn't got in.
If Derrick Henry's hurt, they win 6 games, max. But what a great year he had. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Once again, I think there was only one guy in the AFC that stood out like this guy did. What a year he had, especially for a year that wasn't great for them as a team. I'm gonna go with Dalvin Cook. Um, I just,
I'll also go Dalvin Cook.
I mean, just what he did, and you gotta think he did it all in 14 games too. He didn't play two, and he went over 1,500 yards, had 16 touchdowns. I mean, he gets another 2 in there, he's probably in the 1,800 mark.
Well, no, they said he was on pace also to get 18,000 before he kind of.
That's what I said. 1,800. 18,000 would be a lot of fucking yards. That's more than Emmitt Smith had his entire career.
1,800, yeah. Right. He was on pace to 1,800 until he kind of slowed up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just absolutely unbelievable what he was able to do there for the Vikings, especially knowing that the Vikings weren't having that good of a season as a whole. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good at all. Who's your daddy? Once again, don't forget to ! ticket for your chance to win the giveaway. I appreciate the subscription, but I want you to have your chance to win the gift card. But let's keep on rolling on. We got the quarterback of the year. I appreciate the follow, Gelton. Right there's your info for the giveaway. Now, quarterback of the year. And I got a feeling we're probably going to be talking about these results again at some point in time in the future. But let's start off with the AFC. And I think in the AFC it comes down to 2 guys, and it's going to come down to Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Do you disagree?
Nope.
I mean, we can throw Josh Allen in there too. Let's go ahead and throw Josh Allen in there. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen were the 3 best quarterbacks in the AFC this year. And all 3 of them did tremendous things individually, but only 2 of them were able to do what they did to help their team out that much. And now you see Deshaun Watson, obviously, they traded away D-Hop, didn't have any weapons. That offense was absolutely terrible. But even with the offense being as bad as they were, he found a way to throw for 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns and only turned the ball over 7 times. Extremely impressive what he did. So once again, I think you look at this in 2 ways. I think you look at it in what you did as an individual, right? And getting sacked 49 times and being able to find that out, I've got to give Deshaun Watson credit. Got to give Deshaun Watson credit for what he did in the midst of everything going on in Houston this year. Deshaun Watson's got to be my AFC quarterback of the year within that. But with that being said, the Chiefs are not who they are without Patrick Mahomes. Although Deshaun Watson gets my award.
I think a lot of people would go with Patrick Mahomes, but I also picked Deshaun Watson. I think yours was a little more biased Not saying it, but I know how much you love Deshaun Watson. But I'm going with Watson. Although that team, that organization has treated him poorly. If we want to go into a little bit, we can, since we have time about his situation. But he counted for I think the stat was 84% of their offense because he had no running game. His receivers got taken out. His
Oh,
best receiver got tied in or got traded. His next best receiver got suspended for the rest of the season because of for violating the drug
drugs,
policy.
drugs,
So
drugs.
I
Let me tell
mean,
you, Matt. Let me put it this way, Matt. Let me put it this way. All right. This is why it's so impressive, and maybe I am a little bit biased to Deshaun Watson because I got to meet him when he was in college a couple of times, and um, and just the kind of person that he is was absolutely phenomenal. Being able to see the connections that he had as a kid, knowing some of those guys and what he's continues to do for his community and everything. You're right, right? I'm biased towards good humans, but did you know Deshaun Watson was sacked second most in the league? You know the only person that got sacked more than him?
wasn't it?
Carson freaking Wentz.
Yeah, I was just saying. And he didn't play the last 3 or 4 games too.
Exactly. He got sacked one more time than Deshaun Watson did. So Deshaun Watson got sacked 49 times. 49 times. And still was able to put up all those kind of numbers with no receiving core, with no offensive line, with no running game. If he was on,
And no
because
defense.
here's the thing, and no defense. If he was on the Chiefs, they'd be in the Super Bowl,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that if you plug him into any of those playoff teams, none of them get worse. And just with the year that he had, absolutely unbelievable. One of the things that I think about that really comes to mind is when J.J. Watt and him were walking off the field, and J.J. Watt came up to him and apologized for the season they had. We wasted one of your years
Mhm.
because years in the NFL are so valuable. You never know how many you're going to get. Never know how long you get to have in the league. And they wasted a good one, a really good one for him. And I hate it for him. But I hope that he can find a landing spot. If you want to talk about some of the options moving forward, we can. We can get into that. But I really wish him the best and hope that things work out in his favor because man, what a crappy situation that we were in. And Matt, I did forget when we were talking about offensive line, Quentin Nelson has allowed 3 sacks and 1,946 snaps within his first 3 seasons. You want to talk about an offensive lineman getting it done?
Mhm.
There's one for you. But Deshaun Watson, man, what an impressive year. So, do you want to talk about some of the trade proposals out there?
Well, we can. I
We can
mean,
come back.
we can come back to it. We'll
We'll
come
come
back to
back.
it.
All right, so let's go to the NFC. All right, so talking about the NFC, Matt, who is your quarterback of the year within the NFC?
Um, I think there was only 2 quarterbacks in mind.
All right,
And
let me guess. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
no, I love
Who
Tom
you
Brady.
say, Russell
I
Wilson?
would say Russell Wilson, but because of the massive interception ratio difference, I think for mine, I go Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this guy, just his interception, touchdown interception ratio was incredible. With his only, was it 48? Was it 48?
Yes, it was 48-5.
Yeah, 48-5 touchdown inter ratio, 70% completion ratio or percentage, and he threw over 4,000 yards, almost 4,300. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers,
He also had the most completions over 40 yards.
yeah, just if you take out, just imagine if you took out the Tampa Bay game, he would throw only 2 or 3 interceptions. So I mean, to me, shout out to Russell Wilson. I mean, he was going off even higher, but he kind of fell off a little. And but Aaron Rodgers, he had one little hiccup game, just one little hiccup game, and after that, I mean, to me, I think he's a runaway for it. But shout out to I would do also I think you might go this route, Tom Brady. I mean, what he done being the age of 43 is just incredible. Throwing for 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, and only 12 interceptions. But that 40 touchdowns was the biggest thing that stood out to me for a 43-year-old. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see a 43-year-old have a season like him, ever.
Unless that 43-year-old is Aaron Rodgers.
That is true. But
But yeah, no, just shout out to him and what he did. But let me give another shout out to Russell Wilson once again. In the midst of the tough year that he had with that offense, they had running backs coming and going with injury. DK Metcalf was the only consistent person he had to throw the ball to. He was sacked third in the league, the most times. The offensive line could not keep him upright. You had you had Carson Wentz get sacked 50 times. You had Deshaun Watson getting sacked 49, and you had him getting sacked 47 times. 47 sacks, and he still managed to throw a 69% completion ratio percentage. He still managed to throw 40 touchdowns with 13 picks. Just unbelievable. Shout out to him for what he did, but at the same time, it's no Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gets my NFC quarterback of the year. What a year that he had. Congratulations to him. Even though, he's once again not in the Super Bowl.
mm-hmm.
Now, this rookie of the year. You want to do offense and defense for rookie of the year, or just rookie of the year in general?
I was thinking to do offense and defense just because there's been so many studs on both sides. I mean, we have impact players on both sides. So if you have yours, I put down my rookie of the year for NFC, AFC, but I also would. I was thinking offense and defense too.
Well, all right, let's go ahead and let's start off with the the AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Do what?
I think it's a no-brainer for me.
I think it's Justin Herbert.
Yep.
But I got to give credit to Jonathan Taylor.
Yep, that's fine.
And what he did for the Colts. I think if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt, then he's probably in that mix there. But at the same time, what Jonathan Taylor did for the Colts and allowing them to really make a push. I mean, you're talking about as a rookie in the NFL, he ran for 1,169 yards, 11 touchdowns. He had 36 catches for 300 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely unbelievable. But at the same time, Justin Herbert, what a rookie year he had with 4,300 yards through 66%, over 66, closer to 67% completion percentage. 31 touchdowns with 10 picks. 31 touchdowns with 10 picks in your first year. What a amazing accomplishment there, and then still ran for over 200 yards and another 5 touchdowns. I don't understand Anthony Lynn getting fired. I really don't. I know that there's a lot that goes into the back office, but I did think that I was really hoping to see this Anthony Lynn, Justin Herbert connection for a long time to come.
I can see him get fired. The only 2 reasons I can, near the end of the season, the blowout loss to the Patriots when everyone's seen the Patriots 45-0. You can't do that. And then the multiple double digits blow losses. To me, if they were close losses, I think it would come out. There were a lot
of close losses though.
But when you have a double digit leads and lose them,
without your best defensive player on top of that.
I don't think he deserved to get fired, but I can see why. I think they should have kept him, but I think it was to a point they're like, hey, 3 years, come on. But I think he should have lost his job. I think a healthy defense coming back with Joey Bosa. I would have wanted to see Justin and what they would have done.
No, absolutely. But shout out to him and what he was able to do. Let's flip it over. Let's go.
Before we switch, I was just saying Jonathan Taylor to me. he had we talked about if he had what he did in the second half, because he had a rough start.
Mm-hmm.
His statistics, like people, he started getting thrown out there because what he did in the second half, and that's the reason why the Colts got in the playoffs, because his stud performance. If he had the performance throughout the season, he would have been rookie of the year, offense rookie of the year FC. But because of
He
it,
could if he had the stats that he put up in the second half of the season, the first half of the
yep,
season, we'd be talking about him for a NFC running back of the year.
he'd be right there with Derrick Henry.
Well, I was gonna say he'd be right up there with Delvin Cook. I mean,
Well, he's on the
be right
AFC. That's not a problem. He's the Colts.
You're right. You're right. You're right. All right. So let's go. You know what? Let's keep it with offense. Let's keep it with offense. We'll go handle defense in a second. In my mind, if you look at the stats, it comes down to one guy. But if you look at the impact he had on his team, I think it comes down to two guys.
I know who
And
you're going with, I believe.
and I think that Justin Jefferson coming out of LSU and what he did for the Vikings, 88 catches, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, absolutely unbelievable rookie year. But let's talk about Tristan Wirfs.
I knew it. I knew you were going there.
The Bucs went in. They said we're going to find somebody to help keep Tom Brady upright. We got the best quarterback of the last 20 years on our team. Let's do what we can to help them out. The dude starts all 16 games and has a pass block win ratio of 89.1%. And what that means, right? And that's not sacks. That's pass block win. That means he stood up the defender. They didn't get pressure on the quarterback. They didn't force the quarterback to have to move for his feet. They didn't deflect the ball. That means that 89.1% of the time when they lined up against him, they had no impact on the play when it was drop back pass. No impact on the play. Absolutely unbelievable. What a year by him. But at the same time, this is a stat-driven league. Justin Jefferson gets my NFC Offensive Player of the Year, but I had to give him what a year that he had. And at the same time, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a pass-heavy team, which is why he gets credit there in the past. But he's also a mauler up front.
Well, I'll throw a hint in there. People love him, but a lot of people are saying he was their second best rookie on the team.
You're not wrong.
But I definitely agree. He's definitely my my second choice. I don't think you can go against Jefferson, what he did. And you know what's surprising is about Justin Jefferson and what he did his rookie year? People are thinking of these two other stud receivers that are going to get drafted, Devontae Smith and Chase, or that they will probably have better years than even Justin Jefferson will next year. That's scary.
Be interesting to see.
And exciting. For scary absolutely. For team, scary for opponents, but excited for fans.
All right, let's go with the AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think this was a tough one because there wasn't really many people.
I think it was AFC definitely.
Do what?
For the AFC, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think this was a tough one. I don't think there were too many people that really stood out among the rest. But let me ask you here, Matt, who do you have for this?
I was trying to think about this one. I mean, for me, it's a 3-man race for NFC. But for this one, Patrick Queen for the Baltimore Ravens, what he did. But the only problem with Patrick Queen, he was a liability in the passing game. But at the end of the day, I think I have to go with Julian Blackmon, the safety out of the Colts. He was one of those guys. We talked about this defense. Front seven, no doubt about it, the Colts were good. But his impact in the secondary was the reason why this Colts defense was one of the top 5 defenses that people consider them to be. So I would go with Julian Blackmon.
I mean, I agree with you there. The impact that he was able to have there. The only one that came to mind was L'Jarius Sneed, but he got hurt and wasn't able to put up the same numbers throughout the year. But at the same time, I mean, in the time that he did play, he still had 31 tackles for 3 interceptions. And coming out of the 4th round, I was impressed by him. I think if he plays all year, he ends up winning that. But I'm with you there. Julian Blackmon is also my AFC Defender of the Year. Now, the reason I wanted to wait on this is because this is where I think that
It's probably the closest too.
this is the closest. This is a good one here. And this is one I'm extremely excited to talk about. We got some massive killers in the
We're green
NFC.
though. We're green.
So,
It's down to 3 people. Right.
So it's down to 3 people. All right. We got Chase Young.
Yep.
We got Jeremy Chin.
Yep.
All right, and then we got Antonio Whitfield.
Yep.
Winfield. All right, and so, I mean, what a year by all of them. Let's just go through each individual one real quick.
I would say that before you do that, I would say this: either one, if honest to us, bias alert, we know who we want. But for me, whoever wins this out of the 3, I'll be completely fine because all 3 of them definitely deserve to win it.
Absolutely. Let's start off with Antonio Winfield. 94 tackles, an interception with 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He finished with 2 10-game tackles throughout the year. He played 97% of defensive snaps in 15 games. And he knocked down 6 passes. Once again, had 2 forced fumbles and 4 quarterback hits this year from the safety position. Absolutely remarkable to see what he did coming out of Minnesota and the impact that he had there. Now, Jeremy Chin, and here's one of the biggest reasons I love Jeremy Chin. I'm such a big fan of seeing people come out of the FCS, coming out of Southern Illinois in the 2nd round, seeing what he did as he came along and the way that the Panthers used him. It's absolutely incredible. He had 117 tackles, 1 interception, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. Granted, one of those forced fumbles, and both of those touchdowns came in the same game. Now, he was a do-it-all player. He led all rookies in tackles, posted at least 10 tackles in 3 of those games, had 5 PBUs, and rushed for 28 yards on a fake punt. Like we said, he scored 2 touchdowns. Once again, they were 10 seconds apart of each other against the Vikings. But in a struggling defensive year for the Panthers, when he was on the field, they were so much better. They were so much better. And I would love for him to win this award because of the impact he had. But I think his biggest competitor when it comes to winning this is somebody that has a little bit more name behind him because of when he was drafted and his college career, and not to mention when he walks into a room, he is. Chase Young. All right, Chase Young, 44 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. He had 10 tackles for a loss. He had 12 quarterback hits, returned one of those fumble recoveries for a touchdown. Just, if he's not the number 2 overall pick in the draft, I think Jeremy Chin stands a much better chance of winning this.
And I think also, I would also say if Chase Young wasn't, and I think Chase Young will win it, but if he wasn't on that, I wonder if some people were picking Jeremy Chin because Chase Young was on a stud offensive line, or defensive line, I'm sorry, with 5 other first-round picks. So I wanted to see, I wonder if anyone will put that into him, count that against him, Chase Young, of him being on he wasn't the only pass rusher. They had everyone said that was the core of this team, this defense, the front 7 or front 4. Yeah.
No, absolutely. But I'm going to go with Jeremy Chin. I think what Jeremy Chin did, I mean, coming in as a rookie with over 100 tackles and the impact he had, and he still missed a couple games. And when he missed those games, the Panthers really suffered. In my opinion, he should be the one that gets the NFC Rookie of the Year award for defense.
I want to make a shout out because I forgot, and this goes back to AFC. Forgot to mention them. I was looking at the what people were predicting. Apparently, he did get a vote. I'm gonna give a shout out to Kyle Duggar. Played at Lenore Ryan, hometown college.
I would agree with that.
So
he did really well for the Patriots this year, but you know, I just don't know if he falls into those other guys.
No. He doesn't fall in it, but he gets a shout out.
He gets a shout out.
You playing for LR, and definitely showing up. So he didn't show that he was gonna be a bust. That was the thing. Okay.
All right, good deal. So, sorry. Oh, freaking knockback there's killing me. Starting to be a distraction. Now, let's get into overall defense player of the year. So we've talked about our defensive line picks, our linebacker picks, our DB picks. Let's go ahead and talk about the defensive player of the year. All right, so I'm going to ask you 3 questions here, Matt. First off, I'm going to ask you in the NFC, I'm going to ask you in the AFC, and then I'm going to ask you just overall defensive player of the year. Okay, so we're going to take this down to 2, and then we're going to take it down to 1. All right?
All right.
And I think we're probably going to agree on it, and I'll tell you if I disagree. Defensive player of the year in the NFC, who you taking?
Aaron Donald.
100%. Right there with you every day of the week, twice on Sunday. AFC defensive player of the year, who you taking?
TJ Watt.
100% every day of the week, twice on Sunday. NFL player of the year on defense, who you taking?
Aaron Donald.
Oh, okay. I would like to go with Aaron Donald. I really would. You know, I'm a huge Aaron Donald fan. I think, and especially watching what he did playing with those rib injuries. But I'm going to go with TJ Watt. I mean, he ended up not playing the last game of the year as well. When they sat him all, and what he did with 15.5 sacks this year is absolutely unbelievable. So I think we're going to disagree on that one. But, you know, I'm a huge Aaron Donald fan. Don't want to take anything away from him and what he accomplished.
Well, Let's go. I know people have this argument. My only argument is this. If you look at it, they had great statistic. TJ had a little bit more, but who got more double teamed and triple teamed, and who had the better statistic? And that's the reason why.
It's because Aaron Donald plays inside. He plays everywhere. He plays in 5 techniques, 3 techniques, shade techniques. He plays in 2s and 4s and 0s. He plays in 2 eyes. He plays in 4. Like, he plays everywhere. It's just absolutely unbelievable. So I can agree with you there on that. So what about the offensive player of the year in the NFC?
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, I think it is either him or the guy throwing him balls.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 that come down to. I can go with Devontae Adams. What about in the AFC?
I think it's Derrick Henry.
You got to be Derrick Henry.
Yep.
It's got to be Derrick Henry. I mean, if you say anybody else, you're bullshitting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got to be Derrick Henry. And then who's your offensive player of the year?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, because exactly that's why Derrick Henry has to be your AFC player of the year on offense, because he's your offensive player of the year. All right, so let's talk about the next stat, and this is one of my favorite stats, or one of my favorite awards, and I don't know why. NFL Coach of the Year. Matt?
I think it comes out to 2 people, in my mind.
Okay.
And I'll give my second, and I'll give my first. I think we agree who should win it, or who we think will win it.
I mean, I know who I want to win it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't get me wrong. I know Ron Rivera was in the mix, but I don't think that the Redskins played a good enough season for that. But I have a ton of respect for him and what he's accomplished this year in the midst of everything that's going on and everything that has happened to him and with him and everything. And a ton of respect for him moving forward. But I'm going with Sean McDermott.
Oh. See, he was up there with me. Now, the two I was thinking, my number 2 would be Brian Flores, what he did in Miami.
Yep.
If he got into the playoffs, I think he would be considered higher. But because they barely missed the playoffs with a 10-6 record, it's hard to put them. But I think number 1, what he did, Kevin Stefanski, the job he did in Cleveland and for Baker Mayfield, and finally getting them to the playoffs, I think was huge. And
I agree.
For me, I think it's Kevin Stefanski in my mind.
He was my second. It's just, but because I also look at the same time what Sean McDermott did, getting the Bills to their first AFC title since '95. They go 11-3, and you know, don't get me wrong, Kevin Stefanski, what he did for the Browns will not be forgotten for a long time, but it's been. The AFC East has been a very tough division for a long time. Seeing somebody else finally get on top, and don't get me wrong, I know the AFC North is probably the toughest division in the AFC, but I was extremely impressed by him. But I can definitely respect what you're going with there. Now, before we go on to the next one that's on the list, because I do feel like we left something out, and that is your NFL Comeback Player of the Year.
Well, I don't think I put it because I think it's a I think they're going to rename the award after him. So it's going to become the Alex Smith Award after this year.
Yes. I mean, you're talking about somebody who devastating injury.
I mean, to a point,
all these surgeries to the point where he almost lost his leg because of infection.
Almost lost his life too.
Exactly. I mean, just absolutely incredible. I didn't think anybody deserved this award more than Thomas Davis until Alex Smith.
Maybe Ben Roethlisberger was in the consideration.
Nah, fuck Big Ben. Alex Smith has never been charged with raping somebody. Alex Smith is hands down. We definitely have to give him a shout out before we move on. So here we go. It's come down to this. Matt, who is your MVP?
Well, I think it only comes down to one person, and he hedges it out. Aaron Rodgers. What he did statistically, you look at leading the team in the NFC, but what he did statistically, 70% completion ratio. I'll say it again: 48 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, and thrown over 4,000 yards. I mean, you can't. It's hard to beat that when you're leading the league in touchdowns and you have the most completions, and you throw the least amount of interceptions. I mean, that's just hard to do. At the age of 37, also, I don't think Patrick Mahomes shout out second, but Aaron Rodgers, I think is the legit number one.
I mean, there was a lot of questions whether he was going to be the guy in Green Bay after this season, and he stepped up and he responded. I mean, you're looking at the last couple of years that he hasn't had a year like this since 2016, and then obviously gets hurt in 2017, misses half the season. And then has 2 back-to-back years where, don't get me wrong, like he throws 6 in the last 2 years. All right, last 2 years combined, he threw for 51 touchdowns and 6 picks. This year, he threw 48 and 5 picks. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable year that he had. A lot of it had to do with them being able to keep him upright. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you there. Aaron Rodgers, at 37 years old, should be this year's league MVP. If anybody says otherwise, then they're full of crap. Now, what is this game? Explain that.
All right.
Go for it.
So, we're going to do a game, NFL game. Anyone in chat, you're also can play. Just type out your answers, and we'll shout you out when we see them. So, I'm going to go down a list. We're going to go down all 32 NFL teams, Ryan. Okay? So, when I say the team, if you want me to, I'll go first. If you want to go first, that's fine. You're going to say the first player that you think of that franchise. The
Like
first player.
overall, or
Like
just
when you
or this
hear,
season?
yeah, no, overall. When you hear that franchise, you're going to say comes to your mind of the player, or it could be a player or a coach, the iconic person for that team.
Okay.
Present, past, it doesn't matter. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Chat, like I said, put down your answers. Put down your answers in the chat too. Whoever you think. This is a game for everyone. All right, we'll start with Arizona Cardinals. Brian,
Larry Fitzgerald.
I'm saying Larry Fitzgerald. That's for me.
I mean, 100%. I mean, yeah, that dude is absolutely unbelievable, remarkable, and everything in between. And yeah,
Atlanta Falcons.
Michael Vick.
I had to go with yeah, I got Michael Vick too. Actually,
I mean, if the whole dog fighting scandal doesn't come out, it's
I see Charlie Carson. He says Carson Palmer for Arizona.
okay. Okay, I can get down with that.
All right, Baltimore Ravens. Ray Lewis.
Oh, Ray Lewis, 100% all day, twice on Sunday.
Ed Reed would be my second, but Ray Lewis is ever.
I don't get me wrong. I love Ed Reed, but he's not Ray Lewis.
All right, Buffalo Bills.
Ryan Kelly. Brian Kelly.
Jim Kelly? Is it?
Jim Kelly. The other Kelly.
I said Jim Kelly also.
Brian Kelly. Yeah, Brian Kelly. Freaking Notre Dame.
Jim Kelly for both of us. Okay.
Jim Kelly.
All right, this one I feel like it's going to be, I don't know, Carolina Panthers.
Steve Smith.
Sam,
Although, I want to say Wesley Walls. But
yeah.
Steve Smith.
I'm going to go Sam Mills because he's the one that you think of like he.
I guess OJ would be a bad choice. OJ didn't. Yeah. Oh, we didn't say the Bills.
We didn't have the Bengals.
Oh, we did say the Bills. Yeah, we did. Yeah. My bad. Yeah, my bad. Oh no, Mom said OJ Simpson.
I mean, if you're talking about his gameplay, no. You're talking about the person, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean absolutely. Yeah. You can say OJ. You can say OJ mother.
So Panthers, I'd go with Sam Mills. I think what he represents for organization and what he just to keep pounding for me.
I mean, don't get me wrong. What he represents and everything, yes, but what he did as a Panther, I gotta go Steve Smith.
Yeah. But that's all. This is the game. No one's right. This is everyone's opinion.
That's all right. True. I'm always right.
All right, Chicago Bears.
Ooh. See, I want to say Brian Urlacher because I was such a big fan of him, watching him, and I mean he was a big impact on football players to me growing up. But at the same time, you cannot not say Walter Payton.
Yep, I was saying Walter Payton too. Got Bears.
Oh, Bears.
Cincinnati Bengals.
I mean, I hate Chris Collinsworth so much that I'm going to go with Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson. When I think of Cincinnati Bengals, I think of Chad Johnson, and he brought that team so much publicity in a time where they sucked.
I think mine's gonna surprise you. I told you, present or past. I'm going Joe Burrow. When I think Cincinnati, Joe Burrow now, because he's the face in the future.
I think he will be. I just don't see it yet. But
all right, I'm ready for Charlie and Mother to respond for this one. Cleveland Browns.
Ooh, the Cleveland.
When I think of Browns, this guy on me. I'll go first. Jim Brown automatically comes to me. Jim Brown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The other one I think of right off the bat?
What's that?
Bill Belichick.
Charlie put Joe Thomas. That's not a bad one.
I can respect that, but at the same time,
Jim Brown also.
I'm with you there, Jim Brown. Mm-hmm. All right, but here's the thing: I cannot think of the Browns and the turmoil that they've had, and not remember that Bill Belichick was their head coach and Nick Saban was their defensive coordinator, and you fire both of them to move to freaking Baltimore. Dumbass.
You gotta play the what ifs. All right. Dallas Cowboys.
Emmitt Smith.
Same. Emmitt Smith. First, the name that comes to my head when I think Dallas. All right. Denver Broncos.
Ooh. Now, naturally, what comes to my boo. Naturally, what comes to mind is John Elway. But I was such a fan of this guy growing up and watching what he did in the Tim Tebow. Watching what he did in back-to-back Super Bowls, and I wish he would have been able to stay healthy and not have the health conditions that he did. Terrell Davis. When I think of the Broncos, I think of everything that he represented and everything that he was as a person. And I shouldn't say was, but when he was on the field and the way that he played, big Terrell Davis fan. So it was either him or John Elway, and I'm going with Terrell Davis, even though his career was cut short.
Another one, I would throw Von Miller up there, but I want to go with them, but I have to go with, I'm biased, my Shannon Sharp.
Don't get me wrong, I like Shannon Sharp, but
I think this one's going to be a no-brainer, but it comes down to two. Detroit Lions.
Oh, Barry Sanders, 100%.
Barry Sanders.
The other one that comes close is Calvin Johnson.
Yep,
and,
that was me too.
Congratulations, Detroit. You wasted both of their careers.
Yep, and we can talk about it after this. Matt Stafford going to Los Angeles, and now Detroit gets Jared Goff.
Is it official?
Yeah, it happened last night.
Okay, I knew there had been talks. I didn't realize it was official.
Jared Goff is heading to Detroit. Charlie said Megatron. Yep, I can't. I think that's also
congratulations, Lions. You just got even worse.
Yep, but good job for the Rams, Super Bowl contenders now. Definitely. All right,
we'll see what Matt Stafford can do. I'm glad that he gets out of that shithole of a city.
This one, I think, this one has multiple. To me, I just have to go with the one that Green Bay Packers. I'll throw mine out there. When I just think of the Green Bay Packers, I know I'm going to say Brett Favre. When I think of the Packers.
I think of Vince Lombardi.
That was
but, if we're going player-wise, then yeah, I'm going to say Brett Favre as well.
Yep, Charlie Brett Favre.
A lot of it has to do with us growing up watching him. So.
All right, we got the Houston Texans.
J.J. Watt. Yeah, J.J. Watt.
Yep. Mom said Vince Lombardi. Yep. I got J.J. Watt also. The Colts. Indianapolis Colts.
It's so this is it's going to be Peyton Manning. But at the same time, you got to think of the guys that he was throwing the ball to at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Charlie, I'm with you there on both JJ and Peyton.
Yep, I would say Peyton Manning for me, also. All right, Jackson and Jaguars.
Fred Taylor. When I think about the kind of team that they are, I always think of Fred Taylor. Maurice Jones-Drew comes up within that conversation. I think of
Johnny Unitas. I'm gonna surprise you. I'm gonna go Mark
Johnny Unitas for the Colts. Yeah, no, I can see that for sure.
I'm gonna go with Mark Brunell. Their
the quarterback. Yeah, no, yep. I think about him too. That's a.
By the way, he's going to be the next Detroit Lions quarterback coach. So, getting his first.
Really?
Yeah, getting his first. This is his first coaching job. So maybe he can fix Jared Goff. I mean. All right. What's next? Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes. I can't. That's Patrick Mahomes for me.
Yeah, but there was somebody that was so much more impactful for that offense long before he got there, Antonio Gonzalez.
I know, but for me, like I said, for everyone, no right answer.
Oh, there's always a right answer.
All right, I think we will agree.
Derek Thomas. Yeah, no, I go with Derek Thomas. I like that.
Let me just know. I know what your answer is because this is your all-time favorite player. The Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers is gonna be LT.
LT for me. Yep.
But at the same time, Junior Seau, he's up there too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Gotta respect what he did in the league when he was playing. He'd be a close second for me. But LT, I was a fan of him when he was at TCU and just watching him go up.
Shout out to Philip Rivers too for announcing his retirement.
Yep.
So, all right, Los Angeles Rams.
It's a tough one. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I love Aaron Donald. By far, my favorite player in the league right now and everything that he does. But Deacon Jones.
Ooh,
Deacon Jones is my favorite defensive lineman of all time because of the mentality that he took into the game. I'm going to take these hands right here. I'm going to slap them up side of your head so many times that you just refuse to come on the field. Deacon Jones.
I thought you were going with someone else. I'm going with, like I said, I know you said Aaron Donald, but I don't think of him. When I think I think of Eric Dickerson.
I do think of Eric Dickerson, but I think of Deacon Jones 9 times out of 10.
So, we got next Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. Yeah, absolutely. Next one that comes close would probably be Taylor, but or Thomas. I think about that defense
Thomas,
there
yep.
in the 2000s. But yeah, no, Dan Marino.
Also, the Don Shula would be another one.
Yeah, can't forget about Don Shula.
All right.
Mom said Andy Reid for I think that was Reid for the Chiefs when we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Andy Reid. I think my Andy Reid for the Eagles more than the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, I would agree. The Eagles more. But I mean, hey, what he's doing with the Kansas City, you can't say that.
Yeah, but he's winning with the Chiefs.
All right. Where am I? Minnesota Vikings. I think I go with Johnny Randall. John Randall.
Mm-hmm. I think of Allen, Jared Allen.
Oh yeah, Adrian Peterson. That is a good one too.
Yeah, AP can't go wrong with that. But I'm defensive line biased. I don't know why.
Hey, I got a defensive line pick too. So, next we go to Mom. Probably go throw a boo in here too. New England Patriots.
It's Tom Brady.
Yeah, I go Tom Brady too. If Michael's still here, I was waiting for him to spam Tom Brady.
Okay.
There's the boo. I knew it was coming. All right. TV12, yep. I think it just comes to Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. I think. Next would be the New Orleans Saints. I think it was Drew Brees.
I mean, I think of Drew Brees too, but I also think about Archie Manning.
I was just thinking about him too.
But Drew Brees over Archie Manning, because here's the difference: Drew Brees won.
Yep. Sean Payton would be up there too. I think
it would be in that mix.
Hey, you could even throw Reggie Bush if you wanted to. Okay. New York Giants.
The original LT.
Yeah,
the original LT. But at the same time, we can't get over thinking about Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick and what they did. I think of Michael Strahan. I think about Eli Manning. I mean, there's so many names, and for some reason, Jeremy Shockey comes to mind. There's so many names that pop up when I think about the New York Giants because they've been so talented. Or had so many talented players over the year, but nobody compares to Lawrence Taylor.
Mm-hmm. I think mine was Lawrence Taylor, and then I would put Parcell. Parcell would be right up there after him. Would be my next. All right, New York Jets. I think that Namath.
Broadway Joe. Yeah.
Broadway Joe.
But then again, if we're thinking about like. Broadway Joe comes to mind, but I'll never get Mark Sanchez and that shitty career.
The bump fumble. I'm trying to think. Who was? You know what? I just thought of it. You know who I think because of his interview, Herm Edwards.
Hey Charlie. Is it
We
because
play
of
the
book?
game to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Charlie, is it because of the book? Is that why? Uh,
Went for that. Okay, we'll go on. We'll wait. Oakland Raiders. Al Davis.
I mean,
I know
Al
there's
Davis.
a lot of good players, but when I think the Raiders, Al Davis.
I think of Bo Jackson.
Yep.
Uh,
I
I
guess.
wish his career was longer, but the Raiders. Once again, a couple things come up. I think of Al Davis. I think
Bo
of
Jackson, Charlie too.
Bo Jackson. I think of Marcus Allen. I think of. I mean, just absolutely.
I mean,
Once again, just
there's a lot of
big
different.
history.
There's a lot of names
Yeah.
you could throw in there, but for me, when I think of that, when you think of that team, you think of Al Davis. To me.
Okay.
All right, Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. This one's tough. This one is
Tough.
I think of Reggie White.
Yep.
Probably first and foremost, but I think of Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb and I think of Ryan Dawkins. I mean, just absolutely incredible. But Reggie White's gonna be my go-to.
I'm gonna go with Reggie White too. I was waiting for someone, and I figured Charlie would be the one who would do like Carson Wentz, since he won a Super Bowl. But no, Reggie White.
Now I will
Reggie
say
White,
this, right? I also a little biased here. I think of Clyde Simmons. Do you know who Clyde Simmons is?
Mm-hmm.
He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Went to Western Carolina. Was the last before Keon Crossan here a couple years ago is the last catamount to be drafted, but he's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He played there next to Reggie White. He's now actually a defensive line coach at with the Catamount. So I think about him. And you're right, Charlie. 100%. Carson Wentz didn't win a Super Bowl. Nick Foles did.
That is true. All right.
And yeah, well, you can't think. I mean, think about the history Steve Van Bruin did for football in general, and he still holds those records.
All right. I'm expecting a boo from Mother. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I know Mom doesn't think about. Yeah, I mean, he was way before our time, but he still holds the record for most passing yards in a game. And here's the thing. I know Mother doesn't think of a particular player. She thinks about Terry Bradshaw's ass. Jack Lambert. Yeah, no, I mean, Jack Lambert 100%. For some reason, I was always a big Hans Ward fan, so he comes up. You got Troy Polamalu, you got Jack Lambert, and that's Steel Curtain defense.
I'm going to go with a name that you didn't mention. I'm surprised. I'm going to go Joe Green.
Joe Green.
Yep.
There's so many out there.
Mm-hmm. The Bettis, the Bus.
Yeah, I mean it's that's tough. That's tough. You're an ass. No, that's Bradshaw's ass. I'm gonna go with Terry Bradshaw.
All right. 49ers. I'm gonna go with Joe Montana. I know Jerry Rice, but for me, Joe Montana.
I gotta go Jerry Rice.
Steve Young's up there. There's
Steve Young. Yeah. I mean, those guys are iconic, but they're not Jerry Rice.
Yep. Try to put Mike Tomlin. Yep, that's a good one too. Jerry Rice, he picks. Yep. Seattle Seahawks. Man.
Sean Alexander.
You know what? Would this count? I'm gonna go with. I like the Alexander Legion of Boom. Can I say that?
That's not a player. That's like me
I
picking
know,
the Steel Curtain
but
for the,
I like
for the,
it.
the purple people eaters.
All right. I'm gonna go Richard Sherman.
I hated Jack Lambert.
I'm gonna go Richard Sherman.
Okay.
Charlie said Russell Wilson. I was also thinking Russell Wilson. I do like the Sean Alexander. I mean, what he did with the Seattle, definitely. All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with Warren Sapp.
Yeah, Warren Sapp. You know, I also think of Tiki Barber. I think
Rodney
of
Barber. You mean-
Rodney Barber. You know,
Yeah.
Tiki was with the Giants. I think
Johnny
of
Lynch.
John Lynch. Deacon Jones played for the Rams. Charlie. We already mentioned him.
Um,
Uh, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one there. But
Gruden. John Gruden also.
John
You can.
Gruden, John Gruden. Probably, you know, I probably Warren Sapp more than anything. I was thinking
Derek
Brad Johnson.
Brooks. Ooh, can't think about. Forget Derek
Think about
Brooks.
Derek Brooks. Yep. But you
Who you
know,
say?
I'm gonna go with Warren Sapp.
Oh, okay.
But
Tries
I
Warren
remember that.
Sapp also. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, what about Mike Oscott?
Yeah, fullback. That's when fullbacks were actually a big name. Now you don't even know who the fullbacks was.
I think Jameis Winston.
All right. Next, Tennessee Titans. There's two names and they're two quarterbacks, but I'm gonna go with Warren Moon. When I think the Tennessee organization, the Titans.
Oh, because you go back to Houston.
I'm gonna go with
well.
the Oilers. I'm gonna go with the whole organization. If it was just Tennessee, I would go with Steve McNair. But the whole organization, Warren Moon. If I had to pick, if we're breaking it down like that.
I also think of Jeff Fisher. I mean,
Yep.
he was there for so long. Just think about that face of his.
Chris Johnson's another good one.
Yeah,
Derrick
but he just wasn't
Henry.
there very long. There, yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there, Warren Moon.
All right, and I'm not saying we're gonna go because we're Washington Redskins, but the Washington team.
Oh,
There's so many good ones too for this one.
man, that's a tough one there. That's a tough one. Who you got?
I think I gotta go Joe Gibbs.
I got Joe Gibbs. Yeah,
I think Joe Gibbs.
John Riggins. Okay. I think
Name
about
is up there.
Theismann.
Oh, Sean Taylor. I know. I wish his career was big, but a lot of people
think about Sean Taylor and what he did in the time he was there. I think about Green, and what he did at safety. I mean, there's so many names that pop up for that.
I'm trying to think of his name. His name just slipped my head. Portis.
Clinton Portis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know
Joe Gibbs got to be my pick.
Yeah, I know we're missing a lot more, but there's some good ones. So that's all the teams. So I feel like, like I said, I feel like we all agree on 2-1, but it's like I said, it's what we like you said, there is a right answer, but there is no right answer really. All right. So before we go, we'll talk about some of these news trading around. We'll talk about the most recent one that we talked about earlier. This saying Jared Goff is heading to. Let me pull the whole trade. Is going to Detroit, and Matt Stafford is going to the Rams.
Here's what I want to know: is Jared Goff's girlfriend going to go with him to Detroit, or is she going to stay in LA?
I don't know. Probably, if I'd have guessed, it's not going.
Yeah, she's probably leaving his ass. So here's the trade deal, right? The Lions are going to receive a 3rd-round pick in 21, a 1st-round pick in 22, a 1st-round pick in 23, in exchange for Matt Stafford.
And like I said, the deal won't become official until the first day of the new league, March 17th. But both teams have agreed, so it's not official. It's official, but not. It won't be officially official.
And on top of that, you know, this is the very first time since the common draft era in 1967 where 2 number 1 overall picks have been traded.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting enough. So essentially what the Lions are doing is they're getting Jared Goff they're getting a third-round pick and 2 back-to-back first-round picks. For this,
I'm
I mean,
I'm gonna say
obviously it
this.
helps the Rams out, but I'm curious to see what Detroit does with these first-round picks, because they don't even get to see it this year. They're gonna have to wait 2 years before they can actually use it.
I'm gonna
So
say both teams won, but the Rams, I think, comes out the edge. And
yeah,
when I
because the
say
Rams are the
that,
closest to actually
the
winning a Super
Rams,
Bowl.
yeah,
They need a little bit
Rams
of
have
help.
a Super Bowl defense. They have all,
Absolutely.
and they didn't have to get rid of anyone, like player wise. Draft picks, yeah, but at this time right now, they have weapons with Woods and Cup and
And I don't
Cam
know if you remember
Akers.
this. Do you know why the LA couldn't trade away a first-round pick this year?
Didn't they not have one? They're,
They didn't have it because they
yeah,
gave it to the Jaguars so they could get Jalen Ramsey.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Too many picks. Well, the problem is like when you're trying to win now, those picks, they're not thinking about those picks. And the reason why, if Jared Goff, you wouldn't see that many picks if Jared Goff wasn't playing so terrible. But for the Lions, I think they also win. Not in Jared Goff. I think the picks. Now it's not going to help as much because the Rams are going to be up there, but it's, I mean, still a first round pick. There's first and second round picks. There's a lot of talent, so they can get some players. I don't think they're going to change around. It's not going to be that big of an impact, but because to me, it's just going to be another waste of talent. So more waste of talent going to be in Detroit, but they have potential. So maybe it'll be a good thing for Jared Goff. New system, new coach, because we all know they've kind of given up on Jared Goff in Los Angeles.
Now, let's go on to another quarterback trade. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson for a second. There have been 17 trade proposals. I'm going to go through a couple of them right now.
Before we go, I want to say before, because I knew you were going to, but I want to break out what came out Friday.
Okay.
Friday, the GM came out saying that they are not trading Deshaun Watson. That they have no interest in trading him. This also goes back to when they just hired their head coach. He came out and said that he was told and the reason why he took the job was because he got told that Deshaun Watson was going to be their starting quarterback. So,
well, maybe they shouldn't have screwed Deshaun Watson over.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't. Here's the thing: don't tell your starting quarterback that he's gonna have a say in what happens, and then not give it to him. If you're not gonna give him a say, then be straight up with him. But don't He doesn't have to have a say. But if you're gonna tell him he's gonna have a say,
you're promised someone. Yeah. You're
Like,
promised to look at people and not even look at them.
exactly. I mean, just
And same thing like Eric Bieniemy. You're not even gonna give Eric Bieniemy, and then the second week you're gonna look at him, and everyone knows you're only looking at it because Watson wanted you to. And
exactly.
We'll get into. We can get to that. Eric, I want to get into that in a second too.
So Deshaun Watson did come out on social media and say that he's requested a trade. He's done. I know Houston is not interested in it, but despite the reports, there's a good chance that they're still going to end up trading him, because if he sits on the bench, they're going to pay him to not do anything. Obviously, I would love him to come to the Carolina Panthers, but there were a couple trade proposals that were thrown out there. I kind of want to go through a couple of them in the instance that he does get traded, right? So the first one I'll look at is with the Jets.
I think that's one of the top ones, just because
the trade proposal was that the Jets get Deshaun Watson and a 2022 6th-round pick. The Texans get the second overall pick. So this year they get the second overall pick. They also get the 23rd overall pick this year, and then they get another first round next year. Is that too much for Deshaun Watson? 3 first-round picks, 2 of them are this year.
No. I don't think. I think you're really looking at 3 or 4 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, and I think that's a reasonable question. I think the Jets have one of the top.
Is that worse for Deshaun Watson than staying in Houston, being able to? I mean,
here's my thing. Because he has a say because there's a no trade clause. I think for him, if I'm him, I'm going to look not for the Jets, but I'm going to look for an organization that is ready. Kind of like the Panthers. We have the offense. Our defense is young, or the 49ers. You want to go to an organization that doesn't need additional players. If you go into the Jets, they need additional players. He just if he goes to the Jets, is this a situation like Houston?
No, yeah, they need some help there. So I don't know if that'd be in his best interest.
For the Houston section, the Jets make sense. For Houston, Jets would make sense.
It makes sense, absolutely. All right, so the next one is going to be the Patriots. They've offered for Deshaun Watson and Callum Waring, the tight end, and also a 6th-round pick. They have offered the 15th overall pick this year, a 3rd-round conference series selection pick in 2021, the 1st-round pick in 2022, 2nd-round pick in 2023, cornerbacks J.C. Jackson, and wide receiver N'Keal Harry. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good one, but like I said, at the end of the day, it's difficult because Watson holds the ball of what he wants. I mean, I don't know if he's at the point where he's just like, screw you, I just want to go to the organization, send me here, or send me to one of these organizations too. I think Charlie had a question. I want to know who you're talking about. If you're talking about the Texans, he said, what do you think the coaching lifespan with no high picks going forward? If you're talking about the Houston Texans right now, not good. Especially when you hire a 65-year-old coach. What are you trying to say? Because Texans are in a rebuilding stage, especially now or if you get rid of the Rams. It depends if he can get a Super Bowl. If he can get a Super Bowl and win. If he can't win, it's not gonna. They're gonna try to get someone in there. So I think he needs to win in the next 2 to 3 years, or be contenders to the.
But then again, I mean, you gotta look. The Rams traded away 2 first-round picks to get Jalen Ramsey, and that's really paid off.
Yeah, they're going all in for a Super Bowl. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're trying to win now. They feel like they have the puzzle pieces around them. They're trying to win now.
If they take a step back, especially after this year, he'll get fired. I don't see him staying if they don't make the playoffs. If they don't get out, if they don't get the NFC Championship or Super Bowl next year, he might also get canned because they're risking their future to win now, and they're going to get someone to win. So. And then he said, you said, you do not trade Haskins? Well, he already got traded, or he already signed to Pittsburgh.
He already signed.
And then who's the front runner for the NBA Finals or MVP?
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after this.
So the next trade on here is with the Denver Broncos, and so the Broncos get Deshaun Watson and a 2022 4th-round pick. The Houston gets from the Broncos the 9th overall pick this year, the 40th overall pick this year, which is the 2nd round, a 2022 1st-round pick, a 2023 2nd-round pick, wide receiver Tim Patrick, and quarterback Drew Lock.
I like that for both of them.
You're giving up 2 1st-round picks, 2 2nd-round picks, Tim Patrick and Drew Lock.
If it was Jerry Jeudy, I would like or Hamplink, but they still have some weapons. They still got I can't think of his name. Melvin. They got Melvin as the running back. They got Jerry Jeudy. They got Noah Fenton, who I think will be a good tight end in the future. Still young, but he's emerging. And they still got this defense that, without Von Miller, was actually pretty good. So I do like that for Denver. And that's a team that I think Watson would definitely be looking at because, and no doubt about it, I can't think. John Anaway will be looking at it because he's been looking for a quarterback since Peyton Manning retired.
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be a good pick for. I think it'd be good for Deshaun Watson. I think it'd be good for the Broncos. And then Houston can, suck it. Now, here's the last one we're going to talk about. Last trade proposal for Deshaun Watson we're going to talk about. Deshaun Watson to the Carolina Panthers. All right, so Here's what is proposed. The Panthers get Deshaun Watson. They get a 2022 third round pick and a 2023 fourth round pick. The Texans get the Panthers' number 1 overall pick this year, which is the 8th overall selection. They get the Panthers' second round pick this year, which is 29th overall selection. They get the Panthers' 2022 first round pick, the Panthers' 2023 first round pick, and Teddy Bridgewater. So essentially, the Panthers give up 3 years of first round picks, this year's second round pick. But then in 2022, they get a third round pick. 2023, they get a fourth round pick, and then they're flipping quarterbacks.
I've seen also some Christian McCaffrey. If they don't trade away Christian McCaffrey, if you can, I still don't think you pull the trigger if they want Christian McCaffrey.
I don't think you trade away. You can't trade away Christian McCaffrey for.
But I've seen some people saying Teddy and Christian McCaffrey. I think that's too greedy for the Panthers too.
100%.
But I like it. I think I'm gonna say something. I think you would agree with me, and people have been asking me since we're Panther fans. Do you like the idea? I love the idea that if Deshaun Watson comes to Carolina, especially with the offensive core that we have. I mean, just think what Deshaun Watson would have done with the health of Christian McCaffrey and I'm calling the 3 Dragonhead monsters of Anderson, Samuels, and DJ Moore. With this young defense that's starting to emerge, that's getting experience, I would love to see it. If they don't, I still believe in Teddy Bridgewater. It was only 1 year. I don't think he lost his starting job. I want to see. The reason why I'm going to this, people are talking about in the mock draft that Panthers would draft Trey Lance. I'm not supposed to it, but I feel like taking a player like Kyle Pitts or another defensive back would help this team over Trey Lance. But I say give Teddy another year. A second year in the offense, but I do like that. I do. If Deshaun Watson is, if the Texans are willing to trade him, and Deshaun Watson's like, yeah, I would go to Carolina, I would definitely take Deshaun Watson. I mean, you just can't pass up on a transcendent quarterback like that, though.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening there.
Mm-hmm. And the other one we want to talk about. There's been rumors about Aaron Rodgers after his press conference at the NFC Championship, leaving rumors that he doesn't know what his future was. He went on the Pat McAfee show 2 days later saying that kind of was hinting that he wasn't, but he also still hint that he doesn't know what his future held. Organization has said that Aaron's not going anywhere, but there was rumors that came out Friday that maybe a couple of front office people does not want Aaron there. So, do you see Aaron Rodgers with the Packers? I would say the next 2 years, next year or even the year after.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, how do you get rid of somebody that just did what he did this season? If it is because of bad blood. It has nothing to do with this play. It has nothing to do. You can't tell me if you get rid of him now, you're doing what's best for the franchise. You're doing what's best for you as a GM or as a coach, if that's the issue. But no, if they do, then they're setting themselves up for failure. You can't do what he did this year and still consider giving him away, because you're not gonna. I don't care what. You're never gonna get what he's worth over the next 2 or 3 years. You're just giving him away.
I like people were saying, I like the idea. The Rams before Matt Stafford got traded, but San Francisco, people were talking about if he got traded to, that would have been the team. But yeah, I agree. I was like, I think this goes back to Jordan Love, how you could draft them. They just need it. I was like, you guys shows 2 NFC championships, and you're just thinking about the future. So I think this has been a big drop for the organization.
No, absolutely.
Did you have any more NFL things you want to talk about?
Nope.
All right, we'll just dab a little in NBA, and then we'll call it a show. We'll answer your question. I don't know if you've been following NBA. I'll take a lead on this if you want me to. So for me, I think it's a race for top 3 right now. I think LeBron James is leading it. What he's doing at the age, what he's doing right now, especially he's been playing every game too, and I think that's a lot of people thought he would take off. He even said he would take off, but Everton hit 25 points. His 41% shooting for the 3-point, just his highest. But I would say him, my number one. My number two would be Kevin Durant. He's averaging 30, shooting 51% from the field, also shooting 38% from the 3-point lane. And then my next is Joel Embiid. He's been dominating 28 points. I can't remember how many boards. 11 boards and a block and almost 3 assists. For me, so it's...
Can we just take a minute to appreciate what Bradley's Bill's doing, averaging
Oh,
almost
yeah.
35 points a game?
Too bad he's on the worst team in the NFL, NBA, though.
Just what he's doing is absolutely remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to see Russell Westbrook lose, by the way.
I mean, he's been horrible. 18 points, I think he's averaging.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I love Brandon Bill, but, like, when I know it's different from the NBA, NFL. When you're on a losing team, you're not going to get credit for MVP, and that's the only thing that sucks for Bradley Beal.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're the worst team in the league, it's stat-wise or standing-wise. So, but yeah, shout out to him, though. We'll go into this. I've been following them. The Hornets are 9-11. Are you surprised? I don't know if you were streaming last night, so you didn't see it, but they upset and they beat the Bucks at home last night.
I'm surprised they're not playing better.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I go with that, but I mean, this is an organization.
Oh, I know.
Losing organization. So to me,
no, I agree. I think they've given a couple away, but they're young. They're fighting.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're very young still.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for them. I really hope that they can make a push to do something as we get a little bit closer to the end of the year, and they're right now they're still in the 8th seat. They're still in the 8th spot to make it. Talking about other teams that are up and coming. How about the Knicks?
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done this year. The Cavs and what they've done this year. It's been impressive to see, and I think that's what it's going to come down to at the end. The Magic started off hot. They've been struggling as of late. They've gone 2-8 in the last 10 games.
Yeah, they've really struggled.
But they started off hot. I thought we were going to see big things out of them. How about the Heat? They've gone 2-8 in the last 10 games. They're sitting at 7-12 right now. It's been rough for them. So the East is a little jacked up right now. Would you have thought right now that the Hornets would be higher than the Raptors or the Heat at this point in time of the season?
I didn't think higher. I think I expected them to be right here at 500, but I didn't expect them to be higher than the Heat and the Raptors. I expect the Raptors to be down, but I didn't expect the Heat to take this big of a dip.
Oh no, I can't believe that. Absolutely unbelievable. And how about what the Jazz are doing?
Oh yeah.
And everybody keeps talking about the Lakers, but what about the other team over there in LA? They're 9-1 in the last 10 games. Jazz are 10-0 in the last 10 games.
I would say Charles said the Heat were a momentum team, losing their finals took their momentum. I don't think it was that. I think they've just dealt with a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of injuries this early season.
Yeah, it's just.
And they might be like the kind of like the. They're very young, and they like the Lakers. They've turned. Anthony Davis hasn't looked the same yet. And maybe that's like the Heat. They're coming off as short as the turnaround like the Lakers. So some of their players might not be have adjusted, especially those younger players coming off the play. You're playing a lot of games with no offseason, really.
So what's going on? What's going on with Dallas as they drop 5 in a row?
Well, I know the unicorn has came back. I think for me, I feel like it's just trying to get them back into team shape. The teams they've lost to, their last 5, Rockets, who's been playing stellar since getting rid of James Harden, that team. Nuggets, Jazz, Suns. So, they haven't lost to horrible teams.
Absolutely. And speaking of, James Harden's going to be um, missing some games with that thigh contusion. We'll see how that goes for them. He's at least going to be missing tonight against the Wizards, which I'm sure he wants to play against to see old Russell Westbrook.
Mm.
But
So
be
they haven't
interesting to
really
see.
played the Porzingis yet. Yeah, I think they played him, but he hasn't got. I think he's limited minutes, and I would do the same thing because he's been injury prone. Um, so we'll keep an eye on that. I know. I want to say I don't know who won last night. They had an ABC game last night. I was watching it. I kept turning off and on. Yep, the Lakers beat the Celtics by one. What I saw Anthony Davis talking about his struggles, he looked like a shell of himself. Jason Tatum showing that he's gonna be the next big thing. And Brown, I mean Jason Tatum right now, he's looking like in 2 years he's gonna be a MVP, a superstar MVP caliber. So, but we'll talk about more of the NBA going forward. Next week we'll be breaking down the Super Bowl. What Kansas City will need to do to win, what Tampa Bay will need to do to win, and our predictions also. So come back and join us next week for our Super Bowl pick and what we go to take. Shout out to Michael. He told me he's going to be down in Tampa from Saturday to Monday for the Super Bowl. He said he's not going to get. He doesn't have tickets because it costs $14,000. I can't remember what it said for tickets, but he does have a hotel and he's going to be down in Tampa during that experience, hoping that Tampa wins. Big Tom Brady fan, so shout out to him. But definitely come back and join us next week as for Super Bowl predictions, and we'll be doing all that next week at 11 o'clock. You got anything left, Brian?
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow BuckHeels on Twitch, Volzie on Twitch, WB Sports Talk on Facebook. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to WB Sports Talk on YouTube. We're here every week, other than the last 2 weeks. Oh, every week at 11 a.m. for the WB Sports Talk. Until next time, we out.